So today we're going to learn how to make a chatbot, but we don't need a whole 5 minutes for that. So before we go there, let's take a step back and figure out why and what a chatbot is. Thanks, Brady. My first time on a mic. This is Alan Turing, one of the greatest computer scientists of all time. Not just because they made a movie about him last year, but because he actually did really great seminal work in computer science. He's best known for breaking the Enigma code in World War II, but he did a lot more than that. In 1950, he was the first one to really ask the question, can computers think? This is actually a really tough question because we don't have an objective measure for intelligence. Instead, when we talk about intelligence, we usually talk about examples of intelligence. So we judge it in a behavioral way. Duck typing is what we talk about in computer science when we talk about behavioral stuff. Our model is if something quacks like a duck and it walks like a duck, well, then it must be a duck. We apply the same scheme to intelligence. So Alan Turing came out with what is famously known as the Turing test. The idea here is that if I'm typing and I'm chatting with something on the other end, and I think it's a human, but it's actually a computer, then that's artificial intelligence. So chatbots are, in fact, the embodiment of how we know that artificial intelligence exists. Here's the thing. The hardest part of a chatbot is language itself. Language is incredibly hard. It takes us 2 years as a human to learn it. It only takes about a year to learn to walk. It's a really, really hard problem to solve. The really interesting part is that we've gotten really good in the last few years at doing that in the AI community. We've been battling this for decades, and in the last few years, we've gotten pretty decent at it. The more surprising part for me is that it doesn't take a room of computer scientists, $10 million, and Google to actually do it. Everyone here in this room can do it now because, in fact, there are some services out there. These are kind of the leaders in the market right now in terms of the services that are available. They differ a little bit from here and there, but they basically do the same thing, which is they take care of the language part of doing the chatbot stuff. So let's dig in right now. Let's do some Watson stuff. There are 3 things in Watson or any of these services that you need to work on. One is, what is the intention of the user? What are they trying to say? What are the entities in that sentence they said to us? And then finally, what is the flow between the human and the computer talking back and forth? So let's start out with a greeting intent. A greeting intent is kind of the simplest thing of all. I'm just saying hello, or I'm saying howdy to you. When you go into Watson or any of these services, you give them a few examples of how to do it, and then they kind of extrapolate from there. So I gave 5 examples, but I could have given 5,000 there. Next, then, we need to figure out, what do we do when the human says something to us? Well, we probably just kind of respond in kind. So if the user says a greeting, then we're going to respond with a greeting back to them. Not very complex, but it gives you an idea about how the flow works. So now let's actually take a look at the chat. The red part are the human. The green part is Watson figuring out what your intent was. And then the white part is the computer responding. So a pretty basic chat back and forth. Hi, hello. Not a whole lot going on, but you start getting a sense about how you can actually create a chatbot with a very simple system like that. Next, let's talk about expressing emotion. This one gets a little bit more complex. Because in this case, I'm not just expressing any emotion, I'm expressing any kind of emotion. So in this case, I might say I'm happy or I'm sad or whatever. Now let's talk about entities. The entity is the part that talks about what my emotion is. Am I actually angry? Am I upset? Am I happy? And then what are the synonyms for that, which sit there in the middle? So I might have different ways of expressing that emotion. And then let's actually get into what the dialogue would be. If a human says that I am angry, then what should the system do? It shouldn't respond to any emotion. It should respond to that actual emotion. So in this case, if I say I'm happy or I say I'm angry, then I get a response back that's in kind with that. So let's take it a chat now. I go in, the human says, I'm pretty sad at the moment. Computer, bummer, dude. Human, I'm finally happy. Computer, that's good news. Human, I'm really angry right now. Computer, I'm sorry you're upset. Finally, let's work on some personalization. In this particular case, I've said, what is in my car, where do I live, et cetera. I put a little personal database behind it so it could answer these kinds of questions. And we could put anything in there. Sorry, next slide. These are the personal entities. So I might say, what is my address? But if I was really hip, I'd say, where's my crib? Or I might say, what is my car? But if I was really hip, I might say, where's my ride? Or what kind of ride do I have? So now let's put all those pieces together into a single dialogue using the 3 pieces that we just did. Human, hi. Computer, good to see you. Human, I'm kind of sad. Computer, I'm sorry that you're sad. Human, what's my name? Computer, your legal name is Jose Trevino. You go by Joey. We've wrapped it all up there together. I hope you enjoyed that. Alan Turing in 1954 was persecuted for being a homosexual, much like what's happening in Russia and Chechnya nowadays. He was given the choice of either chemical castration or imprisonment. I ask you, who's more intelligent, the human or the computer? Thank you.